everybody, welcome to the channel. Cindy Daychuk with Queen Bee Creations. If you are new here, I invite you to hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. We come at you at least once a week, every Friday for sure, with a new craft, a new project, sometimes furniture makeovers, whatever we happen to be doing in the shop. So today, I wanted to give you an idea of what to do with old pictures that you may have lying around the house, or that you pick up really cheap from any thrift store, restore, anything like that. So this is just an old print. This is not an original of any kind, so don't give me grief. But what we're looking at doing is removing it and the matting. We are going to use the glass. So sometimes they're taped in here, so I'm just using an X-Acto knife to kind of cut away that tape. You can pull it off, but it does, this is missing over in this corner, but it makes it very gummy. So I like to not take off any more than I need to. Now, I am gonna pull it away from the cardboard part though, because that's where all of the little staples are that are holding it in place. So, just pulling that away so that I can access the staples and remove the glass and the print from the frame. And then all I'm going to do is, I have a screwdriver right here, so I'm just going to take the back of my X-Acto knife, curl it underneath those staples, and lift. Now, if these are really small, so this is more than enough to do this, but otherwise grab a screwdriver and that works. I was going to say just as well, but it actually probably works better. Once you've got all your staples up, you are just going to lift out that cardboard backing and just set it aside. I'm going to lift out this print. Let me see if I can get it out. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just a print of an old watercolor. I tend to hang on to these, one, because I don't know if I'm going to use the matting for something. I may use the print, remove it from the cardboard backing, use the print for something. You just never know. So I hang on to that. Now, what we wanted to do was have access to our glass. I am going to be working on, and the design is going to be on the front of the glass. But what I want to do, in addition to painting the frame out, is to paint out the back of the glass. So, because I want to work on them both simultaneous, since I'm using a white paint for both, and you could paint the back of the glass in whatever color makes sense for your design. Right? So whatever you're doing on the front, we're going to be using transfers on the front. So you could use a color that complements your particular transfer. Maybe you want a nice bright yellow, or perhaps a black, a light blue. And I debated the light blue. And I'm just looking to see if I can actually get the glass out easily without having, I'm trying to not remove all the staples. So I'd like to not have to remove the wiring so I can use it again. I'd like to not remove the staples so I can just bend them back into place. And that's not going to work with this particular piece. So I'm going to paint it in place. Change of plan. Paint it in place. If you can pop it out easily, then do. It just makes your life a lot easier when you go to paint the frame, because you're not going to get any of the paint onto the glass. It comes off easily enough with an X-Acto knife or a razor blade. The paint I'm using does. I'm going to be using DIY, so it's not a problem. It just means when I paint the back, I'm going to have to be painting it, letting it dry completely before I paint the front of the piece, and vice versa. So I'm going to start with the front, and I'm going to paint out the frame using DIY beadboard, which is a nice clean white, little slight undertone of gray, which I like, and it'll probably take 2 coats. So I'm going to paint the 2 coats, let it dry, and seal it, and then I will flip it over and do the back of the glass. All right, so at this stage, we have 2 coats of paint and just a coat of clear wax on here. So as that's drying, I want to start getting some of my paint on the back. So again, this is your background color. Whatever color is going to work best for the transfers that you have chosen to use on the front. I'm using white, but you know, any color is going to work depending upon your transfers, their colors, and the design look that you're going after. So how are you using those transfers? So this is going to take a couple of coats to get a nice even coverage. You can roll this paint on. The nice thing about DIY is that it does stick well to most surfaces, so metals and glass and those kinds of things. So I'm getting a little bit of beading up over here, but that's because this is wet and it just added a little bit too much water because I cleaned it off for a change after my last use of it. You know, usually I'm not that good, and this is one of those times where I'm wishing I hadn't been that good, but it'll be fine. So I'm just going to paint this 2, maybe 3 coats, just so it's nice and even coverage, and then we get to come back and start on the fun stuff. So start with our transfers and setting up our design. The back is all dry, the front is all finished, so you can see we've just got kind of a nice plain canvas to be able to work on. And what I have done was I took some window cleaner and I cleaned all of this up so that I'm not trapping any dirt in there. Now, the idea here is from the Painterly Florals, I used all the roses, but I didn't use up any of the sunflowers. And so I was wondering about kind of maybe setting up the sunflowers in a bit of a circle. So maybe having, I think that's enough sunflowers. I don't know, having them in a bit of a circle. But I also have lots of leaves. I have some of the lavender wreath, the circle that came with it. So kind of putting some of those pieces in and fitting them around so that everything kind of goes in a circle. We get this bit of a wreath. And I'm thinking that I may start with that lavender part, and I may kind of put that roughly into my circle and then work some of these around. But you can already see, look at the contrast of these with the white. This is just going to be beautiful. 4 doesn't work for me even with that bud. I think I need 5. And then maybe fit that bud in however I can. I don't know why I'm so, I must use the bud. I just feel like I need to use that. I just like the look of it. Okay. Now, the cool thing about these is that they can overlap when we lay them out. That's all well and good, and we can do them on top, which is why I kind of think like, I just want to set up the lavender in that circle. Now I have these laid out and I don't want to mess with it. So, I'm just moving them into their respective order over there. And I'm gonna take some of this lavender. The circle didn't quite work for me in terms of size, so I ended up cutting them down to use as filler, but now I think I'm going back to putting them into a bit of a circle. I'm just kind of extending the size of it a little bit because I can, and because a lot of it's going to have flowers over top of it anyway. Right? So there's the start of our lavender. So these transfers love glass. They stick really well to glass. So this part goes very quick. Now here's the only thing, because I still have my glass sitting in my frame, it's kind of raised and it's not against the table. So I have to be a little bit more careful about rubbing on this so that I don't break my glass than you might if your glass was lying flat on the table. And as I'm saying that, I'm thinking I may go and get a towel to prop it up. Okay, so my glass is a little more supported on that towel. Got that beginning lavender, and I still have other little sprigs of lavender that I can use to fill in. I'm going to go back to laying out some of these sunflowers now, and I'm debating whether or not I take it up over the frame, actually. Kind of liking that idea. Okay, now that my lavender's down, I'm just kind of laying out a little bit of my pattern here, and I am thinking that what I might do is actually use some of the frame and extend my flowers out over that frame. So rather than containing it within, include that. Okay, let's go for it. Let's just do it. Now that we've got the one flower on, it's just a case of getting the rest of the flowers. What I want is to get the flowers down because they're gonna take the most spacing, and then I will look at filling in around them. And it may mean that I'm kind of cutting off edges so that they kind of look like they're sprouting out from behind, but I think it's easier than trying to guess where they might go. So this is the next one to put down. We need to get this one down first before I do the other one on top. That we have our big sunflowers all adhered, which looks awesome. And I'm loving them going over. It's time to just kind of take a lot of the bits and pieces that we've got. We've got other little bits and pieces of lavender over here that I can use. I've got some other little just odds and ends of branches and some other leaves. So the leaves that I have here are from the same transfer as this, as is the lavender. These other little bits and bobs are just from an assortment of other things. So whether I have enough lavender and I even need those, I'm gonna wait and see. But I think I'm gonna fit in a couple of leaves. And really it's just kind of like looking at where you can kind of place them. And I'm kind of digging that one there. And have them kind of sticking out a little bit, laying over, filling in all of the greenery areas around where the big sunflowers are. So it doesn't seem so sparse and then big, right? So it kind of fits together just a little bit better than it's looking right now. So it's just a question of, you know, I'm not even looking at laying all of them out and seeing how it goes. I'm just taking up little pieces. I'm gonna fit them in wherever, and I'll just build the overall look and fullness as I go, because I think laying out all the little pieces would end up driving me crazy. So in you know, kind of looking to maintain my sanity, I'm just gonna do pieces here and there. But I do have like a little bit of space here, and I don't want everything to curve this way, and I think I have the opportunity with some of the extra leaves to kind of have a little bit of backward action, and make sure that you're not just building it on the outside, that you balance off with little sprigs and things sticking into the inside as well, which will make it look that much more natural. So you can see how I'm just kind of taking individual little items and sticking them in. This big one is going to be way too long. It'd complete a circle too much. So things like that, I'll cut down as I go to use them. And again, just looking at little sprigs here and there too, that just kind of trail off on the inside, just to balance it all out. So here's where you truly just get to play. And I think that's the last piece. So let me show this to you. And this is our finished wreath. So a couple of things that you'll notice I made sure that I had some of the leaves coming off the side to kind of balance out with the flowers coming off the sides. So coming up over the lip. And I've tried to create some balance with some of the florals without it seeming too busy, too crowded. I ended up only using transfers from the painterly florals. So from the lavender and the sunflower and some of the extra leaves that I had from some of the roses. I still have a couple of sunflowers left. I still have a little bit of lavender left. That lavender from that transfer went a long way, because I think this is my 5th piece that I've used the lavender on, including a big armoire and a butter churn. It's just, I love it. It goes into everything. And the roses I used on the armoire, and I still had leaves, and I think there's still a little bud left over. This transfer pack goes a long, long way. But I think that this is a good representation of what you can do with some of the transfers that's not furniture. that is a little bit more decor related, taking it into a slightly different direction, just making something that's kind of light and cheerful for a wall. Give it a try. This would work with virtually any of the transfers, right? Any of the floral transfers. You just have to cut them and layer them in a way to be able to create the semblance of a wreath. And you can make it fuller, a little bit more loose, whatever your style is. So as always, I look forward to hearing from you. Drop some comments or drop some pics of some of your projects. Love to see them. Looking forward to seeing you next week. We come to you every Friday. As always, if you're interested in any of the paint or the transfers from the Iron Orchid Designs line, hit me up at queenbeecreationshome.com. Subscribe. I'll see you next week. Take care.